The day my husband was appointed CEO with a $2 million salary, I found him in the arms of his innocent little secretary. The next morning, they were both fired. Furious, he stormed the chairman's office, only to go pale when he saw who was sitting in the chair. This all happened at the most luxurious five-star hotel in New York City. Tonight was a celebration for my husband, Ethan. He had just been promoted to CEO of Solstice Development, the flagship real estate subsidiary of the FU Daughters of the Parting Villi All BXE Corporation. His starting salary was a cool $2 million a year. I stood in a quiet corner of the ballroom observing. I wore a simple, unadorned beige silk sheath. It was an understated acris piece, but it practically vanished amidst the glittering designer gowns of the other corporate wives. I was playing my part perfectly, the role of a lucky homemaker who had married a brilliant man and hit the jackpot. Congratulations, Isabella, a colleague's wife, a woman named Karen, gushed as she approached me. You've truly got it made. Ethan is so successful and he adores you. Now that he's CEO, you can just sit back and count the money. You're the luckiest woman in the room. I managed a faint smile, one I'd perfected over the last 3 years. I'm just lucky to have Ethan. Just then, a wave of applause erupted. Ethan, looking sharp in a custom-tailored Tom Ford suit, stepped onto the stage. Tonight, he was the center of the universe, tall, handsome, and radiating the confidence of a man at the pinnacle of his career. He took the microphone, his eyes scanning the crowd with pride. Thank you, everyone, for sharing this moment with me. His voice was deep and warm. Here I have so many people to thank, but the person I want to thank the most is my wife, Isabella. A spotlight swung toward me. Ethan looked at me, his eyes seemingly full of tenderness. Thank you, my love, for being my rock, the unwavering support system that allowed me to focus on my dreams. The crowd clapped and whistled. They were in awe of our love story. If only they knew. If only Ethan knew. If only the entire world knew that I, Isabella Thorne, the quiet homemaker standing here, was the actual chairman of Thorne Industries, the glittering Thorne Tower that dominated the skyline, outside, and Solstice Development. The very company he was now CEO of, it was all mine. 3 years ago, I married Ethan when he was just a sales manager. I had hidden my identity, exhausted by the parade of men who pursued me only for my fortune. I craved a pure love, a husband who loved me for being me, not for being the chairman of Thorne Industries. Ethan, with his sincere demeanor and relentless ambition, had made me believe he was that man. But life isn't a fairy tale. The decision to appoint Ethan to this position was, in fact, my final test. I wanted to see what he would become when he held real power and money in his hands. And tonight, I had my answer. During his speech, though his eyes were on me, I noticed they lingered a moment, too long on the front row. There, Chloe, his new secretary, was gazing at him with undisguised adoration. Chloe was the niece of my mother-in-law, Sharon, who had insisted I help her get a job at the company. A tightness gripped my chest. The opulent air of the ballroom suddenly felt suffocating. I quietly slipped out to a private balcony, hoping for a breath of fresh air. It was dark and peaceful, with only the distant sparkle of the city lights. I had just taken a deep breath when a cloying, sweet voice drifted from a hidden corner, shielded by large potted plants. Ethan, you're the CEO now, making $2 million a year. You're a king. It was Chloe. So what about that boring provincial wife of yours at home? I heard. Your mom, Sharon, can't stand her either. She's hoping you'll ditch her soon. I froze. My hand clenched the cold metal of the railing. A smug chuckle followed. It was a voice I could never mistake. It was Ethan's. Easy, babe, he replied, his tone a disgusting mix of condescension and affection. She's just a placeholder, a pretty piece of furniture to make the furniture of house look right. So dull, so predictable. I'm only keeping her around for the appearances. Don't you worry. As soon as I've solidified my position at Solstice and locked down those prime waterfront projects the chairman has her eye on, I'm kicking her to the curb. The title of Mrs. Cole will be yours, sooner than you think. Really? Chloe squealed. Of course. You're smart, beautiful, and you know how to play the game. I didn't hear anything else. My ears were ringing from the sound of their entine, sloppy, wet kisses. My heart, the thing I had so carefully guarded, felt like it had been stabbed, the knife twisted to carve out a gaping hole. 3 years. 3 years I played the role of a devoted wife. 3 years I gave up my Dane identity to build what I thought was a home, and in return I was nothing but a placeholder, a boring provincial wife. I leaned against the cold wall. No tears fell, but my chest ached with a pain so intense it stole my breath. When the pain subsided, it left behind a terrifyingly cold emptiness. A placeholder? Fine, but I was a placeholder made of steel. And I would show them just how sharp the broken pieces could be. I took a deep breath, pushing down the wave of nausea. I smoothed my dress, tucked a stray strand of hair, and pasted on my usual gentle smile. When I returned to the ballroom, Ethan and Chloe were just walking in from the balcony. Chloe's face was flushed, and Ethan wore a look of smug satisfaction. He saw me and rushed over, wrapping an arm around my waist with practiced hypocrisy. There you are. I was looking all over for you. I looked up at him and smiled. I just stepped out for some air. Congratulations, darling. Ethan beamed, tightening his grip and leaning down to plant a soft kiss on my forehead, the same lips that had been on his secretary's just moments before. I fought back a surge of disgust, leaning into his shoulder and allowing the fartload, admiring gazes of the crowd to wash over us. That night, Ethan was drunk. On the way home, he rambled on about his grand blank plans, about how much money he would make, about how he would make everyone who ever looked down on him regret it. I sat beside him, silently driving. He spoke a lot about us, but I knew that us no longer included me. It included his beautiful young secretary. When we got back to our apartment, he collapsed onto the bed and passed out, a triumphant smile still on his face. I stood there, looking at the man I had once loved, once trusted. Tonight, it was all over. The next morning I woke up early, as always. I went to the kitchen and prepared breakfast, bacon, eggs, and the strong black coffee he loved. I didn't cry. I wasn't angry. I felt a strange, chilling calm. I was simply playing my role one. Last time, our last breakfast as husband and wife. Ethan woke up beaming, filled with the self-importance of his first day as CEO. He whistled as he picked out his most expensive suit, preening in front of the mirror as he tied his tie. He glanced at me as I cleared the table and grumbled, "What's with you? Your husband gets a huge promotion and you look like you're at a funeral. What, are you afraid I'll leave you now that I'm rich?" He laughed, clearly amused by his own joke. I said nothing, just placed his coffee on the table. Just then, his phone, lying on the counter, buzzed. Ping. He glanced at it and shrugged. Probably just spam. He went back to adjusting his tie. But a second later, my phone also buzzed. Ping. I had a protocol set up. Any high-level termination notifications were to be CC'd to my personal email. Ethan saw me pick up my phone and, out of curiosity, grabbed his. He swiped open the screen. The smile on his face froze. I watched him. I knew exactly what he was reading. The email was sent from the office of the chairman, Thorne Industries, a special address known only to the highest echelons of the board. The subject line, urgent, notice of immediate dismissal and termination. I watched his expression shift from smugness to confusion, then to a ghastly white. His hand trembled as he tapped open the email. Dear Mr. Ethan Cole, I recited in my head. Following an emergency review, the Board of Directors has voted to rescind your appointment as CEO of Solstice Development and to terminate your employment with Thorne Industries, effective immediately. The grounds for this decision include a serious breach of professional ethics, engaging in cronyism, a nod to Chloe, and actions deemed detrimental to the interests and reputation of the corporation. This decision is final. The phone slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. He stood frozen as if struck by lightning. No, this can't be, he stammered, fumbling to pick it up, reading it over and over. This is impossible. A mistake. Who would? Daddy fire me? At that exact moment, his phone rang. It was Chloe. Ethan snatched it up. I didn't need to hear to know what was being said. Chloe's frantic sobs were audible even from where I stood. Ethan, I got the email too. I've been fired. They're saying I violated the ethics code. What do I do? Ethan roared into the phone. What are you crying for? Shut up. He hung up, his eyes bloodshot. He looked around the apartment like a cornered animal. His gaze fell on the coffee I had just made. Crash! He slammed his fist on the table. The mug flew, splattering dark coffee all over the white wall. I don't believe this. I'm going to headquarters. I'm going to see the chairman, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this, Ethan screamed, grabbing his car, keys, and storming out the door, forgetting his briefcase. I stood there, amidst the chaotic coffee stains, and calmly took a sip of water. See the chairman? By all means, Ethan. I'll be waiting. I took my time. After Ethan stormed out, I finished my water and cleaned up the mess he'd made. I called my assistant, Alex, my voice even, prep the car, the number 1, and inform the boardroom we're having an unscheduled executive meeting at 10 a.m. I'll be presiding. Alex simply replied, Yes, Madam Chairman, without a single question. That's why I trusted him. I changed out of my homemaker clothes and into a bespoke navy blue power suit. I swept my long hair into a sleek, severe bun. My makeup was minimal but sharp. The woman in the mirror was no longer Isabella Cole, Ethan's housewife. She was Isabella Thorne, chairman of Thorne Industries. I drove my personal car, a vehicle Ethan never knew existed, down to the B1 level of Thorne Tower, using the private chairman's entrance. My office was on the 68th floor, the penthouse level. An entire wall was floor-to-ceiling armored, glass, offering a panoramic view of the city waking below. I settled into my familiar leather chair. Alex had already prepared my morning, coffee still warm. As I predicted, just before 9 a.m., the internal comm system buzzed. It was Alex. Madam Chairman, a Mr. Cole and a Miss Chloe are in the main lobby. They don't have access cards and are causing a scene, demanding to see the chairman. I took a sip of the bitter coffee. It sharpened my senses. What are they saying? Mr. Cole is claiming to be the CEO of Solstice Development and is ordering Breezy security to let him pass. Miss Chloe is crying. Security is trying to explain that Mr. Cole is on the restricted access list. I gazed down at the city, where cars looked like tiny ants. Send them up. Use my private elevator. Just the two of them. Alex hesitated for a fraction of a second. Yes, Madam Chairman. I cut the connection and swiveled my chair to face the window. I heard the hum of the private elevator beginning its ascent. Floor 1, floor 30, floor 60, floor 68. Ding. The heavy mahogany doors to my office swung open. I could hear Ethan's furious footsteps. Where's the chairman? I demand an explanation. He bellowed, storming into the plued room. Trailing behind him was Chloe, her eyes puffy and her makeup streaked with tears. She cowered behind Ethan, but not without gawking at the sheer luxury of the office. Neither of them saw me, as my back was to them. Ethan paced angrily around my massive desk. I am Ethan Cole, the CEO of Solstice Development. You can't just fire me without cause. What is the meaning of this decision? Who is behind this? Show yourself. The silence stretched on, broken only by Ethan's ragged, angry breathing. Slowly, I swiveled my chair around. Squeak, the sound of leather against steel, echoed in the quiet room. Ethan was standing with his hands on his hips, his face red with rage. When he saw me, every muscle in his face seized. The smug, contemptuous smirk on Chloe's lips froze solid. They stared, utterly dumbfounded. Their faces went from furious red to a bloodless, ghostly white. Isabella? Chloe was the first to stammer, her voice trembling as if she were about to burst into tears again. What are you doing here? Ethan stood as if turned to stone. He raised a shaky finger, pointing it straight at my face, but his throat seemed to be caught in a vice. Unable to produce a sound, he rubbed his eyes and looked again, as if seeing a ghost. I took another sip of coffee and set the cup down on the marble desktop with a sharp, definitive clink. I smiled the same smile I used in board meetings. Welcome, CEO Cole and Secretary Chloe. You wanted an explanation? I, Isabella Thorne, chairman of Thorne Industries, will be happy to provide one. The silence in the office was so thick you could feel it. Ethan remained frozen, his pointing finger trembling, his entire worldview collapsing in a single, horrifying moment. He was the first to recover, but in the most delusional way possible. He shook his head violently, even letting out a dry, hollow laugh. Isabella, stop playing around. This joke isn't funny. He started to walk toward me, reaching for my hand. What are you doing in here? Did they force you? Who let you sit in that chair? Tell me who's bullying you, and I'll take care of them. I simply held up a hand, signaling him to stop. Ethan, you still don't get it, do you? Chloe, at this point, could no longer stand. She slumped against the wall, trembling. Isabella, you should go home. This has nothing to do with you, Ethan. Just lost his job. It's dangerous for you to be here. Their naivety, or perhaps their stupidity, made me want to laugh. It wasn't a loud laugh, just a contemptuous curl of my lip. I picked up my personal phone, unlocked it, and tapped on an audio file. I placed it on the desk between us. The quiet room was instantly pierced by a simpering voice. Ethan, you're making $2 million a year now. What about that boring provincial wife of yours at home? Then came the deep, warm voice I had once loved. She's just a placeholder, a pretty piece of furniture. As soon as I've solidified my position, I'm kicking her to the curb. The title of Mrs. Cole will be yours. The color, which had already drained from Ethan and Chloe's faces, now turned a sickly green. The recording from the balcony was crystal clear, every detail echoing through the chairman's office. Ethan stumbled back a step, tripping over a chair leg. He realized it was all over. The confusion in his eyes vanished, replaced by a desperate, wild fury. The truth was undeniable, so he chose to attack. You set me up? He roared, no longer calling me my love. You deceived me. For 3 whole years you were acting. You're the chairman, and you pretended to be some lowly employee. You treated me like a fool, like your personal plaything. He jabbed a finger at me, his outrage at being duped now, greater than his fear of being fired. I calmly turned off the recording. I deceived you? I stood up and walked toward him, the clicks of my heels a steady rhythm on the marble floor. I hid my identity because I wanted a husband who would love me for who I am, not for on this fortune. I stopped directly in front of him, staring into his bloodshot eyes. And you? You married me because you thought I was boring, easy to control. From a simple background, a stepping stone for your career, a decorative vase for your home. Tell me, Ethan, between the two of us, who is the real deceiver? Who is the real gold digger? My words struck him like a physical blow. He was speechless. Just then, Chloe couldn't take it anymore. She realized Ethan was finished. She collapsed to her knees and crawled toward me, trying to hug my legs. Madam, Chairman, I'm so sorry. Isabella, I was wrong. I didn't know you were the chairman. I was seduced by Ethan. He told me he didn't love you anymore. He promised he'd marry me. I'm the victim here. Please forgive me. She wept hysterically, mascara and tears creating a pathetic mess on her face. I looked down at the groveling woman at my feet, then glanced at Ethan. I gave a humorless laugh. Ethan, she says you seduced her. Just last night you were swearing eternal love, and today she's thrown you under the bus. Ethan, the proud man who always saw himself as superior, hearing Chloe shift all the blame, lost his last shred of dignity. He immediately dropped to his knees, as well not to beg me, but to save himself. Isabella, honey, I was wrong. He crawled over next to Chloe but pointed an eyelid on, accusing finger at her. It was this little witch. She set me up. She's Sharon's niece. She knew I was getting promoted, so she deliberately seduced me. My mother, that's right, it was my mother. She planted Chloe here to ruin me. He even dragged his own mother into it. The spectacle of blame shifting was truly nauseating. I only love you, Isabella. She put a spell on me. Please, just forgive me this one time. Before I could respond, the office doors were shoved open again. Bam! My mother-in-law, Sharon, burst in. She hadn't used the private elevator. She must have taken a public one and then run up the stairs fighting with security. The whole way. She didn't know I was the chairman. She had only heard that her son had been fired and had rushed here to cause a scene, just as she always did, in our apartment building, whenever something displeased her. Sharon was panting, her hair a mess. She saw Ethan and Chloe kneeling on the braid floor, and then she saw me, standing over them. Her anger instantly ignited. "You jinx!" she shrieked, pointing a finger at my face. "What are you doing? Here?" I knew it. It was you. Your bad luck brought this on my son. You came here and made a scene so they would fire him, didn't you? She lunged forward, her hand raised, ready to slap me. Stop. Alex, my assistant who had been standing by the door, stepped forward, with 2 security guards, blocking her path. Let go of me. Who do you think you are, stopping me from teaching my daughter-in-law a lesson? Sharon struggled. Seeing his mother, Ethan, instead of feeling ashamed, acted as if he'd found his savior. He yelled, "Mom, save me, it's her. Isabella is the chairman of this corporation. She set me up, she fired me." Ethan's scream was like a thunderclap to Sharon. She froze, her struggling ceased. She whipped her head around to look at me, then at Ethan, then at the opulent office. Her eyes widened, her mouth fell open. She was trembling. She understood. In a single motion, she shoved the guards away not to attack me, but to drop to her knees. She knelt even faster than Ethan and Chloe. She began banging her, head on the marble floor, producing a series of sickening thuds. "Madam Chairman, Isabella, my dear child," she wailed, her tone doing a complete 180. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'm old. I'm senile. Please, forgive my son, Ethan. He's my only boy. It was my fault. I was the one who pushed him to leave you for Chloe. I didn't know you were this rich. My dear child, please forgive me." I looked down coldly at the 3 people groveling at my feet. The husband I once loved, the mother-in-law I tried to respect, the cousin-in-law I had treated like a little sister. 3 false faces, 3 people willing to trample on others now begging me only because I was this rich. I turned my back, unwilling to look at the disgusting scene any longer. I walked to my desk and pressed the intercom. Security. Yes, Madam Chairman. I stared out the window, my voice devoid of emotion. Escort all 3 of them out of the building. Add their names to the permanent blacklist. They are never to set foot in this tower again. Understood, Madam Chairman. I heard the guards enter. I heard Sharon's desperate pleas, Ethan's curses and screams as he realized it was truly over, and Chloe's pathetic sobs. I did turn around. The noise faded as the office door shut with a heavy thud. The silence that followed felt more exhausting than the chaos that had preceded it. I canceled the emergency board meeting. This wasn't the time for explanations. I needed to deal with my personal mess first. I told Alex to handle the rest of the day's business while I drove back to the apartment. The place we once called home. A luxury condo I had bought with my own money before the wedding but had put Ethan's name on as co-owner just to make him, I feel like, the man of the house. The place where I had stored away my chairman's suits to put on a homemaker's apron. I sat alone in the silent living room. The apartment was spotless, everything in its place, but it felt as cold and empty as a tomb. I didn't turn on the lights, just sat there in the growing darkness, waiting. I knew Ethan wouldn't let this go. As predicted, close to midnight, the front door was pounded on. Bang, bang, bang. A violent, frantic banging, accompanied by Ethan's drunken shouts from the faxta hallway. "Open the door! Isabella, you lying bitch, open this damn door. I knew if I didn't open it, he would break it down. I calmly walked to the door and unlocked it. The moment it cracked open, Ethan shoved it with all his might, sending me stumbling backward onto the floor. He staggered in, reeking of cheap liquor and rage. He was no longer the polished CEO from the morning, but a wounded, cornered beast. You dare set me up? He snarled, lunging toward me, his hair a wreck, his eyes bloodshot. I scrambled to my feet, backing away to keep my distance. I didn't set you up. You set yourself up. You still have the nerve to talk back? He bellowed. He looked around the living room, his anger needing an outlet. His eyes landed on a ceramic vase I was fond of, one I had bought with the pocket money I made from some freelance illustrations he thought were just a silly hobby. Crash! He snatched the vase and hurled it against the wall. It shattered into a zeu, 100 pieces. You like pretending to be poor, don't you? You like playing make-believe? He went on a rampage. He flipped over the coffee table, smashed our wedding photo. You're the chairman and you lied to me for 3 years. You were laughing at me, watching me like I was some kind of clown, weren't you? I stood silently in a corner, my phone already in my hand. I was dialing 911. Ethan saw the phone and lunged like a predator, yanking it from my grasp. Who are you calling? The cops? Your precious bodyguards? Smash! He threw my phone into the large television screen. It sparked and went dark. Let me tell you something. Isabella Thorne, he panted, backing me into a corner. You think firing me is the end of it? You think because you're rich, you can do whatever you want? He slammed his hands on the wall on either side of my prena's head, trapping me. His face was inches from mine. I could smell the cheap whiskey and the sour stench of failure on his breath. I don't care if you're the chairman or the Queen of England, he hissed. You are going to give me my job back. You are going to reinstate me right now. I stared into his eyes, my voice cold. You're insane. I'm insane? Yeah, maybe I am, he roared, spittle flying into my face. Let me tell you. If you don't reinstate me, and if you don't give me 50% of your goddamn Thorne Industries, I will ruin you. I will expose your deceitful, manipulative, true face to the whole world. So, that was his endgame, not his career. 50% of my company. The gold digger had finally revealed his true monstrous face. I looked at him, the man I had shared a bed with for 3 years, the man I thought I would spend my life with. Now he stood before me, breath stinking of booze and desperation, demanding half of my life's work. It wasn't the demand of a husband, it was the demand of a thief. A wave of pure disgust washed over me. I no longer saw Ethan. I saw a greedy monster, a parasite whose handsome mask had finally fallen off. I once thought his affair with Chloe was the worst betrayal. But no, this was his true nature. And what gives you the right to demand anything? I said, my voice like ice. Ethan suddenly laughed, a horrifying dry cackle that echoed in the wrecked apartment. The right? He staggered over to his old filing cabinet, one I had been meaning to throw out. He fumbled with the bottom drawer, where he kept private things I never touched. He pulled out a thin file and threw it in my nanin face. This is my right. The file fell to the floor, spilling a few blurry photos. I calmly bent down and picked them up. They were spy shots. Pictures of me and my assistant Alex on a business trip to San Francisco. The angle was deliberately misleading, capturing a moment I was handed a document so it looked like we were holding hands. A few others were of us at a business dinner, which, through the lens of a stalker, looked illicit. Accompanying them were copies of old reports with certain phrases maliciously circled in red. I let out a small, contemptuous laugh and dropped the file on the table. I think you can threaten me with this garbage? Garbage? Ethan roared. He knew the photos weren't enough. He came closer, hissing in my ear, enunciating every word. Then what about the death of Liam, your old fiancé? My entire body went rigid. It felt like an invisible hand was squeezing the air from my lungs. Liam, a name I hadn't allowed anyone to speak. a memory I hadn't allowed myself to touch for 3 years. Liam was my first love, the man who laid the first bricks of Thorn Industries with me. We were the perfect team, building a business and a future together. But 3 years ago, right before we were supposed to get married, he died in a rock climbing accident. It was the single, most devastating event of my life. His company, his passion project, was later merged into mine, and I carried on our shared dream, building it into the empire it is today. I had buried that pain deep inside me. And now Ethan, the husband I had tried to open my heart to after that tragedy, was digging it up. I did my research, Ethan sneered, delighted by the sight of my face draining of color. Your friends all said you two had a huge fight before that trip. You say he died in an accident, but was it really an accident? He gave a low, menacing laugh. Or did you push him off that cliff to take over his company? Isabella. Shut up! I screamed, losing control for the first time. Scared? Ethan's grin widened. If you don't meet my demands, 50% of the company, I'll leak this theory. I'll go to the police, to the tabloids. I'll let everyone know that the great chairman of Thorn Industries is actually a black widow who murdered her fiancé to steal his fortune. Let's see how your reputation and your precious company hold up then. I stared at him. The peak of my anger passed, leaving only a bone-deep chill. The final thread, the last shred of marital decency, had just been severed by his own hand with the most vicious, disgusting lie imaginable. I realized then, I hadn't just married a cheat. I had married a demon. I looked at Ethan not with the eyes of a wife, but with the eyes of a chairman, facing an enemy. I no longer saw the man I used to cook dinner for. I saw a piece of scum trying to blackmail me by desecrating my most sacred memory. The sheer rage made me unnaturally calm. I didn't argue, didn't explain. With a person like this, words were useless. I shoved him hard, sending him stumbling. Get out. Ethan was stunned. He had expected me to be scared, to cry, to beg, to negotiate. He never expected this cold calm. What did you say? I said, get out of my house. I repeated, my voice flat. Before I call, building security. You. Ethan seethed, but when he met my gaze, he faltered. Perhaps he realized the docile house cat had truly turned into a tiger. Fine, you're tough, he spat, pointing a finger at me. I'm giving you 24 hours to think it over. 50% of Thorn Industries or total ruin. Your choice. He staggered out, kicking the door on his way, and left. The door slammed shut, and the apartment fell silent. I stood motionless amid the broken glass and shattered pottery. I didn't cry for Ethan, but tears started to fall. I cried for Liam, for our pure love that had been defiled. I cried for my own foolishness in trusting the wrong person. I wiped my tears away. Enough. I went into the bedroom and locked the door. I ignored my smashed phone. I opened the small safe hidden behind a painting and took out my backup phone, my Iridia. Work phone, the chairman's phone. My first call was to my assistant, Alex. Alex. My voice was steady. Effective. Immediately, I want you to freeze every bank account and credit card in the name of Ethan Cole. All of them. That includes the supplementary platinum card I issued to his mother, Sharon. Freeze it and repossess the Mercedes he's driving. It's a company asset. Do it now. Understood, Madam Chairman, Alex replied without hesitation. I thought of Sharon, the mother-in-law who called me provincial but swiped my supplementary card without a second thought on designer bags and spa days. I thought of Ethan, who called me a placeholder but used that placeholder's money to buy watches and suits and to wine and dine his secretaries. My second call was to Eleanor Vance, the most formidable divorce attorney in the city. Eleanor, it's Isabella. Madam Chairman, calling me at this hour? It must be urgent. Eleanor's voice was as sharp as ever. I want a divorce, I said, getting straight to the point. From Ethan Cole. I want it done as fast as possible. And he walks away with nothing. Eleanor was silent for a few seconds. I understand. Your assets are all premarital or derived from your privately held company. The apartment you live in was also purchased before the wedding. He technically has no claim, but he won't go quietly. He won't, I interrupted. He just threatened me, demanding 50% of the company, or he'll accuse me of murder. I want you to prepare a countersuit for defamation and extortion. On the other end of the line, Eleanor took a sharp breath. I see, don't you? Worry, Isabella. I'll draft the divorce petition and the asset settlement agreement immediately. He'll receive it first thing in the morning. I hung up, turned off the phone, and threw myself onto the cold bed. I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling. The next morning, while Ethan was likely still sleeping off his drunken rampage, perhaps gleefully believing he had me cornered, an email from Eleanor Vance's law firm landed in his personal inbox. Attached were the divorce petition and the settlement agreement. He would receive nothing. I wasn't there to see it, but I could imagine his apoplectic rage. Instead of a call of surrender from me, he got a ruthless divorce filing. I spent the morning at Thorn Tower, tackling the backlog of work I'd neglected, while playing the role of a devoted wife. I had to show everyone that their chairman was back, stronger than ever. Around 10:30, Alex knocked and entered, his expression a little strained. Madam, Chairman, Miss Vance's office just called with a report. I looked up from a stack of documents. What happened? Half an hour ago, Sharon and Ethan Cole showed up at the law firm, Alex recounted. They didn't have an appointment, just barged in. I frowned. Sharon's card must have been declined. I could picture her trying to buy some luxury item, only to be humiliated. With her personality, she would have immediately called Ethan, and upon learning he was also cut off, they would have joined forces to confront their common enemy. Miss Vance said, Alex continued, Sharon didn't come to talk. The moment she entered the lobby, she threw herself on the floor and started wailing and screaming. I sighed. I had seen this performance too many times in our apartment building. According to the staff there, Alex tried to suppress a smile. She was, quote, shouting, "Oh, the injustice. My daughter-in-law is a billionaire and she's abusing her mother-in-law. She's starving us. She saw my son get fired and now she's trying to ruin our lives. Everyone, come and see. A rich daughter-in-law. This cruel. This heartless." I rubbed my temples. How ridiculous. Just the other day, she was banging her, head on the floor, begging my forgiveness because I was this rich. Today, knowing she wouldn't get a dime, she instantly switched to playing the pitiful victime. And Ethan? I asked. He threatened Miss Vance, said he would sue you for fraudulent marriage and sue the law firm for aiding a criminal. He screamed that he would never sign the criminal divorce papers and that he would ruin you. What did Miss Vance do? She was very professional, Alex smiled. She quietly turned on a recorder, then called building security. Before they were escorted out, she said only one thing. All of your threats and disruptive behavior have been recorded. We will see you in court. Oh, and the condo you are living in is my client's premarital asset. I suggest you make arrangements to vacate before you receive an eviction. Notice from the court. After Alex finished, I just shook my head. Money truly is a powerful thing. It can make people kneel and beg, and it can make them lose all reason and start screaming curses. Sharon and Ethan weren't angry because I was cruel. They were angry because I was cruel and I wasn't giving them any money. I looked out the window. Alex, draft an internal announcement. Appoint a new CEO for Solstice Development. I want all operations back to normal immediately. I don't have time for their drama. After the chaos at the law firm, Ethan and Sharon went quiet. They were likely processing the fact that I wouldn't back down and were plotting dirtier tactics. I decided to return to the condo one last time. The apartment was still a wreck from Ethan's rampage. I wasn't there to clean, but to collect the few personal belongings I had there and the mementos of Liam I had stored away before the lawyers officially sealed the property. I stood in the living room looking at the destruction. This place, which I had tried to make a home, was now just a pile of ashes, just like my marriage. As I was packing up an old photo album, the doorbell rang timidly. I frowned. Ethan would have kicked the door down. So would Sharon. I checked the security monitor. It was Cluey. I was surprised. What was she doing here? She was no longer the smug secretary from the chairman's office. Through the camera, she looked haggard, her eyes swollen, her face pale and makeup-free. She didn't look like she was crying over Ethan. She was crying over her own bleak future. I hesitated, then decided to open the door. I wanted to see what this discarded pawn had to say. The moment the door opened, Chloe saw me. Her legs seemed to give out, and she immediately tried to kneel. "Isabella, Madam Chairman, stand up," I ordered coldly. "I don't talk to people on their knees. What is it?" Startled by my authority, Chloe scrambled to her feet but didn't dare meet my eyes. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. I'm young, I was foolish. It was Ethan. He made promises to me. He said he didn't love you anymore, that he would marry me. I was tricked by him. I really didn't know you were. I cut her off with a dry laugh. You didn't know I was the chairman, so you seduced my husband. So, if I had been just an ordinary housewife, what you did would have been perfectly fine? No, that's not it, Chloe stammered, her face growing even paler. The night of the promotion party, I was on the balcony, I said slowly. I heard you egging him on to ditch that boring provincial wife. Are you the victim, Chloe, or the instigator? Chloe was stunned. She never imagined I had heard everything. She knew she couldn't act anymore. She bit her lip. Then, as if making a final desperate decision, she quickly opened her handbag and pulled out a black USB drive. I know you hate. Ethan, I have something that can help you. She held the USB out to me like a life raft. This is proof of Ethan cheating on you with other business partners, not just me. She spoke in a rush, as if afraid I would refuse. And proof of him taking kickbacks from contractors on the Solstice development projects. I recorded and screenshotted everything. It's all yours. I beg you, have mercy. Please withdraw my termination. I desperately need this job. I have a family to support back home. I looked at the USB drive, then at Chloe's pleading face. So pathetic, yet so contemptible. Their love had been so passionate, yet she had kept an escape route, recording and photographing everything just in case they turned on each other. I calmly took the USB. Thank you. The corporation will need this. Chloe's eyes lit up with hope. So, my job? I am accepting this, I said clearly, because it pertains to the corrupt activities of a Thorn Industries employee. As for you, you violated the professional ethics code and conspired with a superior. Your guilt is clear. The termination stands. You can go. The hope in Chloe's eyes died, replaced by despair. You can't. I started to close the door, but just before it shut, I opened it again. Chloe flinched and looked at me, a tiny flicker of hope returning to her eyes. Oh, and one more thing, I said conversationally. You should keep a copy of what's on this drive. Go find my former mother-in-law, Sharon. She's the one who put you in this position. Let's see how she protects you now, the niece she was so proud of. I slammed the door shut, leaving Chloe standing outside, her face as white and stunned as a sheet of paper. The pawn had finally realized she was just a pawn. The black USB drive felt cold in my palm. It was a hot, dirty piece of evidence, just like Ethan and Chloe's relationship built on betrayal and ending in mutual destruction. What was on this drive proof of Ethan's embezzlement, his other affairs, was useful, but it wasn't what concerned me most. The disgusting truth about Ethan and Chloe was already clear. What chilled me to the bone was his slander against Liam. He had dared to drag Liam, my greatest pain, a man who was no longer here, to defend himself, into this filthy war. He thought this was my weakness, his ultimate weapon to extort me. He was wrong. It wasn't a weapon. It was the final line he had foolishly crossed. I immediately called Alex. Come to my office. Bring the secure network analysis. Git. Alex entered and plugged the USB into a specialized device to ensure it was clean of any malware. Once it was confirmed safe, he connected it to a computer. The contents appeared. audio recordings of Ethan negotiating kickbacks with contractors, screenshots of his messages with several other female business, associates the language even more vile than what he had used with Chloe. Madam Chairman, this is solid proof. We can use this to sue Mr. Cole for embezzlement immediately, Alex said, his voice hard. I shook my head. It's not enough. Embezzlement will only send him to prison. I want him to pay for the slander too. I looked at Alex. I want you to use every resource available. Find out for me why Ethan knew about Liam's situation, and when he started looking into it, Alex understood the gravity of the request. He bowed his head. I understand. I'll have a team on it immediately. I handed him the USB. The embezzlement files, you hold on to for now. As for this, I pointed to a separate folder Chloe had carefully labeled Other Third Parties. Find out for me who this woman is. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Liam, about the day he said he was going climbing, about his last radiant smile. The pain I thought had healed was now raw and bleeding, clawed open by Ethan. The next morning, Alex walked into my office, his face grim. He placed a thin file on my desk. Madam Chairman, he said, his voice low. According to our preliminary investigation, Mr. Cole began looking into Mr. Liam's accident 6 months ago. My heart seized. 6 months ago, that was when he had just started his affair with Chloe. That was when he began to sense that I was testing him. What did he do? I managed to keep my voice steady. He secretly went to Liam's old hometown, met with his old climbing buddies, even spoke to locals near the site of the accident. He deliberately planted seeds of doubt, asking leading questions like, did anyone see Isabella with him that day? Or, I heard they had a huge fight before the trip. I clenched my fists. My God, I had married a monster he hadn't just cheated on. Me. He had been planning to blackmail me, preparing his weapon against me for 6 months. He had used my pain, used Liam's death, as his ace in the hole. 3 years of marriage meant nothing to him compared to a single, filthy scheme. And, Madam Chairman, Alex continued, as if hesitant to cause me more pain, there's an interesting detail about Miss Chloe. Go on. The woman in the other third party's folder she provided is not actually one of Mr. Cole's mistresses. She's one of Miss Chloe's. My jaw dropped. To be precise, she is sleeping with a branch manager at VC Bank, a married man. I was stunned for a moment, then I burst out laughing. What a twisted joke. Chloe had provided evidence of Ethan's infidelity, not knowing she had also handed over proof of her own affair behind his back. That bank manager, I said coldly. Find out what his wife is like. Alex quickly checked his tablet. His wife's name is Victoria. She's the daughter of a prominent steel tycoon. Word on the street is she has a fiery temper, not someone to be trifled with. I smiled. Excellent. Send this little gift to Mrs. Victoria anonymously. Send everything, the photos, the videos. I want to see how a real queen bee deals with a duplicitous worker bee. After making these arrangements, I allowed myself a moment of quiet. I knew Ethan and Sharon were like cornered rats, cut off financially, humiliated at a law firm. They wouldn't stay silent for long, especially Ethan. When he realized I wasn't afraid of his threats about Liam, he would become even more desperate. As I predicted, 3 days later, the first media storm hit. It didn't come from reputable news outlets, but from sleazy tabloids and gossip sites. Alex walked into my office that morning, his face more tense than usual. He placed an iPad on my desk without a word. I picked it up. A barrage of headlines screamed at me. Exclusive. The mysterious chairman of Thorn Industries revealed, and the 100they2.com. Deceitful marriage behind it. The real story. Was the $2M CEO fired in a wife's elaborate trap? And the most venomous one, the one that was going viral, the mysterious death of a former fiancé and the rise of the Thorn Queen. Coincidence? The articles didn't accuse me outright, but they used poisonous, leading language. Citing a close source, undoubtedly Ethan, they claimed I had pretended to be poor for 3 years to trick my husband, that Ethan, a brilliant and devoted man, had been unjustly fired because he discovered his wife's true, manipulative nature. But the cruelest part was what they wrote about Liam. They dredged up the accident from years ago, hinting at the big fight we had. They questioned why, so soon after her fiancé's death, Miss Thorne was able to so easily absorb his company into hers. They painted me as a ruthless schemer who had trampled over love, and perhaps even a life, to get to the top. I read every single word, my heart not angry, but numb with a profound, aching pain. Ethan, he had actually done it. He had dragged my honor and Liam's eternal rest through the mud, feeding it to the media vultures. He wanted public opinion to believe I was a cold-blooded monster to justify his demand for 50% of my company. The phones at corporate headquarters were ringing off the hook. Shareholders were calling. Partners were calling. They needed an explanation. The reputation of Thorne Industries, the legacy that Liam and I had built, was being shaken by these disgusting lies. "Madam Chairman, what should we do?" Alex asked, worried. "The PR department is demanding an emergency meeting." "Should we issue a denial?" I took a deep breath. The air in the room felt thick. I looked out the window. The sky was overcast. "Ethan," I whispered, "you have crossed the final line." I turned to Alex, all hesitation gone from my eyes. "He wants to play dirty? I'll show him a hurricane." "Convene the PR team," I ordered. "I'm not hiding anymore. I will respond. But not to these gossip rags." I looked at Alex. "Contact Forbes. Arrange an honorations. Exclusive interview. This afternoon. I'm going on the record with everything." That afternoon, the largest conference room at Thorne Industries was transformed. The long boardroom table was gone, replaced by 2 armchairs facing each other under professional lighting. I didn't choose my office. I wanted a formal, official setting. The journalist from Forbes, a sharp woman renowned for her tough questions, was already waiting. She eyed me with a mixture of scrutiny and curiosity, likely wondering what kind of woman was at the center of this storm. I walked in, not in my severe navy suit, but in a pearl-white sheath dress. My hair was in a simple updo, exuding an air of quiet strength. I wanted to face this storm as Isabella Thorne, the woman, not just the chairman. "Thank you for agreeing to this, Madam Chairman," the journalist began. "The public is buzzing with questions about you, particularly why you hid your identity for 3 years of your marriage." I looked directly into the camera, my expression calm. Like many women, I began slowly, my voice not commanding but confessional. I longed for a love that was genuine. I was tired of men pursuing me, never knowing if they loved me or my fortune. I thought that if I were just an ordinary person, an office worker, I could find a man who loved me for myself. I gave a sad smile. "Unfortunately, I put my trust in the wrong person." The journalist nodded, her eyes softening. "So the real reason for Mr. Cole's dismissal, was it, as he claims, because he discovered your secret?" "No," I said firmly. "Mr. Cole was dismissed because he committed a serious breach of professional ethics and company policy. At his own promotion party, I personally witnessed him engaging in an affair with his secretary on the personally witnessed premises. Thorne Industries, I said it without a hint of shame, is built on a foundation of integrity. We cannot entrust our leadership to a person of such compromised morals. The board's decision to terminate him was unanimous, and I fully supported it." My directness seemed to surprise her. She shifted to the most explosive topic. "And the rumors about your late fiancé, Liam, the public is saying—" I held up a hand, cutting her off. This time my voice trembled, not with fear, but with emotion. "Ethan Cole can slander me," I said, fighting to control my voice. "He can trample on my name. But he has no right whatsoever to defile the memory of a man who is gone. Liam was my first love, my partner, my mentor. His death was the greatest tragedy of my life." I took a deep, steadying breath. "I did not intend to speak of this today, but for the sake of Liam's honor, I must. Alex." My assistant stepped forward and handed the journalist a file folder, stamped with an official police seal. "This," I said, my voice now hard as steel, "is the official police?" Investigation report from 3 years ago. Liam died in a rock-climbing Pacheries accident, a fall from a cliff. There was no evidence of foul play. It was ruled 100% an accident. The subsequent merger of his company into Thorn Industries was done with the full consent of his family and was completely 2025 legal. As for the other rumors, I stared into the camera. They are nothing but vicious slander, the desperate act of a cornered man attempting to extort 50% of my company. My lawyers will be in contact with every media outlet and social media account that has propagated these baseless and defamatory lies. The interview was released that evening, not just in print, but across all of Forbes' online platforms. It hit like a nuclear bomb, turning the tide of public opinion completely. My image as a strong, decisive woman who had been betrayed won over hearts and minds. Shareholders and partners called to apologize for ever doubting me. Conversely, Ethan became a pariah online. Gold digger, abuser, a security. Camera clip of him trashing our apartment had mysteriously leaked. And, worst of all, ghoul who slanders the dead. I sat in my office, reading the flood of comments. Liam, I whispered. I'm sorry. You were disturbed. But you can rest in peace now. I've protected your honor. The media storm subsided after my interview. Public opinion was firmly on my side, and Ethan was too disgraced to show his face. He had been checkmated, financially and socially. But I knew there was still one more piece on the board to be dealt with. Chloe. I wasn't there to witness it, but a few days later, Alex recounted the entire story, a tale more dramatic than any soap opera. The anonymous gift I had sent to Victoria, the bank manager's wife, had hit its mark. As Alex had discovered, Victoria was no meek housewife. She was known in high society as the Lioness, a woman from an old money family who despised being cheated on. When she received the package containing photos of her husband, and Chloe, she didn't cry or confront her husband. She quietly investigated. She found the address of the cheap, rundown apartment complex Chloe had moved into after being fired. One afternoon, Victoria didn't go alone. She brought her entourage, a group of equally wealthy and powerful friends. They rolled up in a fleet of black SUVs, causing a commotion in the quiet, working-class neighborhood. Ironically, Alex told me my former mother-in-law, Sharon, was also there. Having been cut off from my funds, she had probably gone to Chloe, the niece she had pinned her hopes on, to see if there was anything left to salvage, or perhaps to team up and curse my name. Victoria and her friends stormed up to Chloe's apartment. They didn't waste words. The moment Chloe opened the door, Victoria grabbed her by the hair and dragged her into the hallway. A brutal, public shaming ensued. There were screams, curses, and the sharp sound of slapping. Victoria yelled as she attacked. I gave you money for an NNS education, not to become a homewrecker. You think because you're young and pretty you can steal my husband, you little tramp? Chloe was a mess, her hair torn, her clothes ripped, able to do nothing but shield her face and sob. Sharon, seeing her niece being assaulted, instinctively rushed to intervene. What are you doing? Stop. That's my niece. Victoria, in a rage, turned on Sharon. Your niece? Oh, so it runs in the Bertie and Isacridier family, a whole clan of husband stealers. With that, Sharon, in her attempt to protect her niece, became collateral damage. She was shoved to the ground by the quote-say, other society wives, slapped for being an accomplice and for raising her niece so poorly. The entire incident, from Victoria's attack to Chloe's begging to Sharon's involvement, was filmed by residents on their phones. Within an hour, the clips went viral, with headlines even hotter than my own story. Shocking video. Banking tycoon's wife catches mistress in public beatdown. Karma. Fired CEO's mother, shamed by billionaire daughter. In-law, now caught in. Public catfight defending cheating niece. I watched the clips Alex sent me. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt a deep, weary disgust. You reap what you sow. Chloe had paid the price for her actions, not at my hand. but at the hand of another woman who had been betrayed. As for Sharon, she had tried to plant her niece in my home to destroy my marriage so her son could have a better match. Now, the two of them were famous in the most humiliating way possible. The horrific public shaming of Chloe and Sharon eventually died down, but the Rossley storm inside me had not. I sat in my office, looking at the USB drive Chloe had given me. It was a desperate gift from a drowning woman trying to pull her accomplice down with her. I plugged it into my computer and examined it closely. The audio recordings, the messages between Ethan and other partners, it wasn't just about kickbacks or affairs. It was a systematic, organized scheme. Ethan, as a senior manager, before his promotion, had used his position to approve contracts with inflated prices for a select few familiar contractors. I realized Ethan was no amateur. He was sophisticated. But Chloe, perhaps wanting her own leverage, had saved everything. I immediately called Alex. "Ethan's case isn't just about ethics," I said, my voice turning cold. "I suspect embezzlement, a siphoning of company funds. He was only just made CEO, but the rot in his character started long ago." I gave the order. "Immediately form an independent internal audit team. I want a full review of every project, every contract that Ethan Cole has ever signed or approved in the past 3 years. I want to know exactly how much money he stole from Thorne Industries." I sat in my office, looking down at the river of traffic below. 3 years. For 3 years, I had played the part of a housewife, content with my meager illustration income, proud of my brilliant husband. I had deluded myself. I had deliberately ignored the expensive watches he bought, the frequent, unexplained business trips. Because I wanted to believe in our marriage, I had given him a chance, and he had used that chance to hollow out the very foundation of my life's work. The audit was conducted quietly but with extreme urgency. The best team in the Prives Corporation, under Alex's direct supervision, tore through the books. 3 days later, Alex entered my office. His face wasn't tense anymore. It was a mask of suppressed fury. He placed a thick binder on my desk. "Madam Chairman," he said, his voice low, "we have the results, and it's much worse than we imagined." I opened the binder. Numbers, flowcharts, unfamiliar names. Alex began his presentation. Mr. Cole didn't act alone. He used a distant relative on his mother's side to set up 3 shell corporations. These companies specialized in industrial cleaning, landscape maintenance, and auxiliary construction materials. He deliberately approved contracts for these 3 companies at rates 30 to 40% above market value. All the paperwork was in order because he was the one who gave the final approval. I flipped to the last page, the summary. "The total amount," Alex pointed to a figure in red, "that Mr. Cole has siphoned from Solstice Development over the past 2 years through these shell companies is $10,250,000. $10 million. I took a sharp breath. Now I understood. I understood his confidence. Understood how he could afford to lavish gifts on Chloe, buy luxury items, and plan to kick me to the curb. The $2 million salary I had offered him, he hadn't even collected his first paycheck. He had already been rewarding himself with my sweat, my tears, and the legacy of Liam and me. With irrefutable proof of embezzlement in my hands, I knew I couldn't let Ethan roam free a moment longer. He was out there, shamed by the public, abandoned by Louver, his mistress, likely acting like a rabid animal, but even a rabid animal can bite. His slander against Liam I had to extinguish it, permanently. I had Eleanor Vance arrange one final meeting. Tell him, I instructed her, this is his last chance to negotiate the divorce settlement. If he doesn't, we'll see him in court for more than one crime. The meeting was set at Eleanor's office neutral ground, fully equipped with audio and video recording. I arrived early, sitting in a private conference room, calmly sipping tea. Ethan arrived late. He was no longer the dapper CEO or the drunken brute. He was gaunt, unshaven, his clothes rumpled. He looked like he had aged a decade. The social media scandal and Chloe's public shaming had clearly taken their toll. But when he saw me, that haggard look vanished, replaced by one of pure, venomous hatred. "What did you call me here for?" he spat, slumping into the chair opposite me. "To offer me some charity? I told you I don't want it." He was still clinging to his last desperate hope. 50% of the company. Or tomorrow, Liam's accident will be on the front page of every newspaper. I will destroy you. Eleanor started to speak, but I held up a hand to stop her. I looked at Ethan, my expression unreadable. "Ethan, I didn't call you here to negotiate your threats." I slid the thick audit binder across the table. "I called you here to show you this." Ethan frowned, probably thinking it was another psychological game. He smirked and flipped open the first page. His smirk froze. He saw the names of the shell corporations. He saw his own signature on the inflated contracts. He saw the flowchart of money being funneled to his mother's distant relative. His already ashen face became completely bloodless. He snapped his head up to look at me, his eyes no longer filled with hatred, but with sheer, unadulterated terror. The terror of a criminal caught red-handed. You, he stammered. "This is a lie, a forgery. You framed me." I gave a faint, cold smile. "A forgery? Is your signature a forgery? Is the official seal of Solstice Development a forgery? Is the $10,250,000 that flowed into your family's pockets a forgery?" I stood up, leaned across the table, my hands planted firmly on its surface. "Would you like me to call in the head of the audit committee who signed off on this, and perhaps an officer from the 20 NR Telsin NYPD's Financial Crimes Unit to confirm it with you?" Ethan collapsed back into his chair, gasping for air, sweat beading on his forehead. He understood. He understood that his slander about Liam was child's play compared to this binder. I sat back down, lacing my fingers together. "Ethan, you have two choices." I pushed the divorce petition he had refused to sign back toward him. "1. You sign this divorce petition, agreeing to walk away with nothing. The condo is mine. You move out. In exchange," I tapped the embezzlement file, "I will temporarily consider this binder an internal matter and give you a chance to walk away a free man." I stared directly into his eyes. 2. You don't sign. I picked up the binder. "The moment I walk out this door, this file goes to the district attorney's office. The charges will be organized embezzlement and money laundering. For over $10 million, how many years do you think you'll get? 15? 20? The room was silent, save for Ethan's heavy, ragged breathing. He stared at the two files. On one side, freedom, but with humiliation and poverty. On the other, the end of his life as he knew it. His hand on the table began to shake, uncontrollably. He had truly aged, not by years, but by the collapse of his greed and arrogance. He knew he was trapped. I didn't rush him. I let him wrestle with his final choice. Looking at him, for a fleeting moment, I no longer felt hatred. I felt pity. Pity for this man who had a good life within his grasp, a wife who, unbeknownst to him, was powerful and wealthy, a rising career, and had thrown it all away for greed and betrayal. And I pitied myself. Pity for the 3 years of my youth I had wasted, for the 3 years I had tried to be a good wife, only to realize I was living with a thief and a liar. After a long while, Ethan lifted his head. His eyes were red but utterly defeated. He didn't look at me, only at Eleanor. "A pen," he croaked. Eleanor pushed a pen and the petition toward him. With a trembling hand, Ethan took it. He flipped through the pages without reading, knowing it was useless. He signed his name Ethan Cole on the signature line. The script that I once found so handsome and confident was now a weak, shaky scrawl. He signed the Potter Sig's final page, agreeing to walk away with nothing. After he dropped the pen, Eleanor checked the signature and put the file away. It was done. But then she produced something else, a single slip of paper, and pushed it toward Ethan. "You need to sign for this, too." Ethan flinched, cowering as if it were another trap. "What? What is this now?" I spoke, my voice calm. It's a cashier's check for $50,000. Ethan's head snapped up, his eyes wide with disbelief. I don't want you starving on the street, I said, my tone flat. The condo is mine. You need to be out by today. The company car has been repossessed. Your accounts are frozen. You have nothing. I gave him one last look as his wife. Take this $50,000. Consider it a final act of humanity for our 3 years of marriage. You can use it to buy a bus ticket home or go somewhere else. And start over, if you're capable. And from now on, I stressed, never appear before me again. It was the ultimate humiliation. For a man who, just moments before, was screaming for 50% of a billion-dollar corporation, a $50,000 check was more bitter than poison. It was charity. It was the final slap to his ego. Ethan's hand shook as it reached out, then retracted. But in the end, harsh reality won. He needed the money. He snatched the check, crumpling it in his fist. He stood up, stumbling slightly. He didn't say thank you, didn't utter a curse. He just dragged his heavy feet out of the room. A few days passed after the divorce was finalized. I had the locks on the condo changed. A professional cleaning crew came and scrubbed away every last trace of Ethan, every shard of broken glass. The apartment was clean again, but hauntingly empty. I decided to sell it. I wanted nothing to remind me of this. Failed marriage. I was in my office, trying to bury myself in work. Thorn Industries was my life, the legacy of Liam and me. I couldn't let it be tainted by scum. Suddenly, my personal phone rang, the one I used when I was still Ethan's wife, a number only close family and friends had, a number I had forgotten to discard. It was an unknown caller. I frowned, about to decline, but some instinct told me to answer. Hello? A weak, trembling, and all too familiar voice came from the other. I was silent. Isabella? Is that you, Isabella? My heart clenched. It was Sharon. But this wasn't the sharp, screeching voice of the shrew who had berated me or the wailing of the actress at the law firm. This was the voice of an old, exhausted, and desperate woman. I remained silent. Isabella, my child, she started to sob. Please, please don't hang up. I know. You hate me. I know I was wrong. Sharon, I finally spoke, my voice like ice. Why are you calling me? Ethan, she choked out. He's gone. I don't know where he went. After he signed the divorce papers, he just disappeared. He didn't even say goodbye to me. I wasn't surprised. With $50,000, Ethan would have fled the city, fled the humiliation. A man as selfish as him would never think of the mother who had enabled him. I have nothing now. Sharon wept pitifully. The card you gave me, it's been cut off. I went to the market to buy some vegetables, and they asked for money. I didn't have a single dollar. I was so ashamed. I went back to my hometown, but even my relatives shunned me. After that video of Chloe's fight, the whole town knows. They call me a disgrace for raising a niece who steals husbands. I have no home, no money for food. Isabella, her voice rose in a desperate plea. Please have mercy. You're so wealthy, you have more money than you could spend in a lifetime. Just give me a little to live on. I'm begging you. I know I was wrong. I promise I'll never bother you again. I listened to her ramble, my heart unmoved. I remembered every insult she had ever hurled at me. Provincial, barren, freeloader. I remembered how she had encouraged Ethan to leave me. I remembered how she had groveled at my feet in my office, not out of remorse, but because she didn't know I was this rich. I sighed. Sharon, I shouldn't have answered this call. No, Isabella, please, don't. Listen to me. I cut her off, my voice firm. The day you brought your niece into my life, deliberately setting her up to seduce your son and destroy my family. Did you ever think of this day? The day you knelt before me in my office, you were kneeling to my money. The day you caused a scene at the law firm, you were furious that I wasn't giving you my money. From beginning to end, all you have ever seen is money. You were never sorry for treating me poorly. You were only sorry you treated a rich person poorly. I really... As for your retirement money, I said, delivering the final blow, go and ask your son for it. The son whose every sin you enabled. As for me, I am divorced from him. I have no further obligation to you. Isabella, please don't... I hung up, and I blocked her number forever. The last tie, however nominal, was severed. A sense of lightness filled my chest. The world, it seemed, was truly a just place. The Ethan Cole affair wasn't just a personal scandal. It was a crack in the dam, revealing a gaping hole in my own corporate governance. How could a man like Ethan, a man of such rotten character and bottomless greed, climb so high, so fast? How could he bypass our audit teams and embezzle over $10 million without anyone noticing? I had become too complacent, too focused on my personal drama, and had neglected my own life's work. The next day, I convened an emergency meeting of the board of directors. The grand conference room on the 68th floor, where I had confronted Ethan and Chloe, was filled with a tense silence. The major shareholders and key executives were all present. They knew I had been betrayed, but they didn't know the corporation had been betrayed too. I walked in, not as a weary divorcee, but as a formidable chairman facing a crisis. I didn't waste time on pleasantries. I signaled to Alex. The large screen behind me lit up, not with growth charts, but with the entire internal audit file on Ethan Cole, flowcharts, shell corporations, and the final number, 1,025万美元. A collective gasp went through the room. If my interview was a media bomb, this was a nuclear warhead dropped right in the heart of Thorn Industries. Gentlemen, I began, breaking the stunned silence. Did you think I called you? Are here to discuss my personal scandal? No. I called you here to discuss our scandal. I stood and walked slowly around the table. We have been harboring a parasite in our midst, a man who not only violated personal ethics but also broke the personal ethics law, rotting Thorn Industries from the inside. The Ethan Cole case is a slap in the face, a wake-up call to our own complacency. Where did we go wrong? I slammed my hand on the table. We prioritized talent, we prioritized profits, and we ignored the most important thing of all, character. I looked each person in the eye. As of today, Thorn Industries is undergoing a transfusion. I don't want unfeeling profit-making machines. I want human beings. I am hereby establishing an independent internal affairs division, reporting directly to the chairman's office, headed by Alex. This division will have full authority to audit any department, any individual, at any time, without prior notice. I would rather hire someone with 7/10 talent and 10/10 integrity. I said, my voice like steel, than a 10/10 talent with 0/10 integrity like Ethan Cole. Anyone who feels they cannot align with this new culture can submit their resignation today. I will accept it. But if you stay, you play by my new rules. No one spoke. They understood. The era of complacency was over. The true queen was back on her throne. These powerful men, used to calling the shots, now sat in silence, humbled by the evidence. They saw my resolve, but perhaps they still didn't understand the depth of my anger. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the betrayal of a legacy. I signaled to Alex again. The screen changed. The $10 million figure vanished. In its place was a single image, an old, yellowed, hand-drawn sketch. It depicted a green urban development, complete with small wind turbines, rainwater recycling systems, and roofs covered in solar panels. At the bottom, in familiar handwriting, it said, Thorn Verde, our dream. It was signed, Liam and Isabella. I looked at the drawing, and my chest ached anew. This was the soul of Thorn Industries. Do you know what this company was built on? I asked, my voice softer now, filled with a deep sorrow. It wasn't built on concrete and steel, or on profits, at any cost. I told them about Liam, my co-founder, the man I had loved more than life itself. I told them about our dream to build a corporation that was rich not just in capital, but in social responsibility, in decency. Liam used to tell me, I whispered, almost to myself, business without trust and integrity is destined to fail. We can build 1,000 towers, but if we don't build trust, it's all just dust. I turned back to the board. The case, con of Ethan Cole, is proof of that. He lost the trust of our partners and he had no integrity toward the company. He is the greatest insult to Liam's legacy. I looked at the sketch. For 3 years, I let this dream gather dust. Because of my own personal pain, I chased profits. I enabled men like Ethan who knew only money and had forgotten the soul of our company. And then, I gave a bitter smile. That same traitor used Liam's death to slander me. He dug up the past, but in doing so, he accidentally resurrected this dream within me. I took a deep breath. From this day forward, Thorn Industries is relaunching the Thorn Verde Initiative. This will be our strategic flagship, our guiding principle. We won't just build buildings, we will build a sustainable future. I concluded, that when people speak of Thorn Industries, they speak not just of a wealthy corporation, but of a decent one. That is the only way for all of us to honor our co-founder. The board members, initially tense about the purge, now looked at me with new eyes. They saw the vision. They saw the heart of their leader. The meeting ended, not in fear, but in a round of unanimous applause. I had cleaned up my big house. I was exhausted, but my soul felt clean, serene. I didn't go back to the penthouse. I didn't go to the old condo. I drove an hour out of the city to the quiet suburb where my parents lived. They were retired teachers who had lived a simple, modest life. Their house was a small, single-story home, but it had a garden fragrant with jasmine, the scent of my childhood. I saw my father trimming the bougainvillea. My mother sat at a stone table preparing vegetables. When she saw me, the bowl in her hands fell, scattering greens everywhere. "Isabella, honey," she stammered. I rushed to her. I had tried so hard to be strong, but seeing my mother's silver hair, my father's worried frown, I broke. I threw my arms around my mother. "Mom." She just held me tight, patting my back like I was a child. Then she started to cry. "Oh, my girl, why did you have to suffer so much? We saw the news. It broke our hearts," I sobbed, releasing all the tears I had held back for so long. Here, I wasn't Chairman Thorne. I was just Izzy, my parents' little girl. My father came over and put down his shears. He sighed, a deep sound full of sorrow. "I knew that boy wasn't honest from the start," he said sadly. "The day he met us. He was all smooth talk, but his eyes were always darting around. I knew he was ambitious, but you loved him." My father's voice cracked. "You had already suffered so much because of Liam. We didn't have the heart to stop you from finding new happiness. Were we wrong?" I shook my head, wiping my tears. "You weren't wrong, Dad. I was. I was the one who was naive." I sat down on the stone bench. I thought if I hid who I was, I could find real love. I tried to be a good wife, a good daughter-in-law, but I was wrong. How can you expect someone to be honest with you when you're not being honest with them? My mother sat beside me, taking my hand. Her hands were rough from gardening, but so warm. "Being naive is not a crime, sweetheart," she said softly. "The crime belongs to the one who exploits that naivety. You did nothing wrong. You just wanted an ordinary happiness." Her words were a balm to my bleeding heart. Yes, I just wanted an ordinary happiness. "It's over now," my father said, his voice stronger. "He got what he deserved, and you taught him a lesson. You're our daughter. You're strong. Now, go wash your face. Your mother made your favorite chicken pot pie." I looked at my parents. The pain was still there, but I knew I wasn't alone. I still had this place, this jasmine garden, to come home to. I was no longer afraid of the storm. I stayed with my parents for 2 days. I didn't touch my work phone, didn't read the news. I just puttered in the garden with my mother and listened to my father's stories. My soul felt cleansed. On the third day, I returned to Thorn Tower. As my car passed through the Rosen-Dadii gates, I felt different. I was still Chairman Isabella Thorne, but my heart had rediscovered the peace of the girl I used to be. Alex came in to give me the morning briefing. He reported on the progress of the internal purge, on market reactions to the interview, on the appointment of the new CEO for Solstice. Things were getting back on track. As he was finishing, Alex hesitated. "Madam Chairman, there's a small update regarding Miss Chloe." I looked up. Chloe, the secretary, the niece Sharon was so proud of. I had almost forgotten her existence after the fight. "Go on." "Well," Alex said, keeping his tone professional, "after the incident at her apartment, she had a complete breakdown. The video of the fight went viral, far and wide." I nodded. I had seen it. The humiliation was palpable. Her reputation as a homewrecker has essentially blacklisted her from any corporate job in the city. No one will hire her. So she went back home? Yes. But unfortunately, the video reached her small town as well. Her parents, who are simple farmers, couldn't bear the shame and gossip. They have disowned her. I sighed softly. A tragedy created by Sharon, who pushed her niece down this path, by Ethan, who used her, and by her own greed. Disowned, penniless, and jobless, Alex continued, a hint of pity in his voice. The last we heard, she was seen working at a seedy karaoke bar in a neighboring town. Her future is gone. I closed my eyes, picturing the pretty, ambitious girl from my office, then the haggard woman begging at my door, and finally, a blurry image in a dimly lit bar. From a major corporation to that. It was a staggering fall from grace. Did I feel satisfaction? No. I just felt sad. Sad for a life that had chosen its own. Dead end. All right. I opened my eyes, my voice calm again. Stop monitoring her. She's no longer a threat. She made her bed. Now she has to lie in it. Yes, Madam Chairman. Alex bowed. I looked out the window. Chloe had received her karma. Sharon had received hers. Now there was only Ethan. The wounded animal, the man who had slandered Liam, was still out there, hiding. After hearing about Chloe, I asked no more. Her life was her own. But I knew the Gatterlife fate. Main actor in this drama, Ethan, had not yet taken his final bow. I had Alex. Keep tabs on him. A cornered animal who had just lost his 50% prize wouldn't stay down for long. A few weeks passed in quiet. Ethan seemed to have vanished. He wasn't at the condo. He hadn't contacted Sharon. My $50,000 seemed to have been enough for him to start a new life somewhere far away. I almost thought he might actually try to turn his life around. I was wrong. I had underestimated his greed and overestimated his capacity for change. The following week, Alex entered my office. Madam Chairman, we've located Mr. Cole. His situation is not good. According to the report, Ethan hadn't gone far. He'd taken the $50,000 back to his old hometown. In a poor rural town, that was a lot of money. But Ethan was used to the high life. He didn't go back to start over. He went back to show off. He used the money to treat old friends to drinks, bragging about his days as a $2 million CEO. He burned through the cash, trying to recapture his old glory. When the money started to run low, he didn't look for a job. He turned to the quickest way he thought he could get it all back: gambling. He threw himself into poker games and sports betting. But a man who has lost his mind can't win. In less than 2 months, the $50,000 was gone. Worse, he was now heavily in debt to local loan sharks. Our people found him when he was being dragged out of a dingy bar by a couple of thugs, beaten and bloody, begging them for more time. He was now a homeless drunk, despised by the entire town. I felt nothing but a profound weariness. He had been given a chance to live, and he had thrown it away. Madam Chairman, Alex added, he's disappeared from his hometown. It seems he's on the run from his debts. But our people just spotted him. He's back in New York City. My heart skipped a beat. A desperate, broke man hunted by gangsters. What was he doing back here? He's run out of options, I said. A cornered animal will do something reckless. Keep a close watch on him. I want to know why he's back. I spent the next few days on edge. Not because I feared him, but because I feared his desperation. I quietly increased security at my parents' home and was more careful about my own movements. I was trying to focus on the Thorn Verde project when Alex burst in, his face urgent. Madam Chairman, we know why he's back. I put down my pen. Tell me. Alex took a breath. He still has a copy of the embezzlement file, the one Chloe gave us. I was stunned. I had been too careless. Of course, Ethan would have kept his own copy, his own ace in the hole. What is he planning to do with it? He's contacting Titan Group, Alex said. My brow furrowed. Titan Group was our biggest, most ruthless competitor in the real estate market. He's offering to sell them the entire internal file on the Solstice development. Embezzlement scheme for $500,000, Alex continued. He thinks he can get the money to pay his debts and disappear, while simultaneously causing a stock market crisis for Thorn Industries. It's his final revenge. I leaned back in my chair. A truly vicious plan. He was willing to burn down the whole house just to see me get burned. He doesn't realize, I said quietly, that selling proof of embezzlement is the same as confessing to it. He's gone mad. He thinks he's holding all the cards, Madam Chairman. I thought for a moment. This was it. This was the opening I was waiting for. I gave him $50,000 to live a new life. He refused. He chose the path of self-destruction. Alex, I ordered, get me Chairman Davis of Titan Group on my private line. I want to speak with him. A few minutes later, the call connected. Davis, an old fox of the business world, answered. Chairman Thorne, I hear you've been cleaning house. Very decisive. Chairman Davis, I said with a thin smile. I'm calling with some good news for you. A piece of trash I recently threw out, Ethan Cole, is trying to sell for himself to you. He's peddling a file of internal Thorn documents. Are you interested? There was a pause on the other end. Davis understood. What do you want? A sting operation, I said bluntly. Agree to his deal. Set up a meeting. In return, I'll owe you one for helping me take out the trash. What do you say? Davis laughed heartily. An offer from Chairman Thorne herself? How could I? Refuse? Consider it a favor. And I do love good theater. My people will set it up. 500,000, was it? A bargain for a show like this. The trap was set. Davis's people arranged to meet Ethan at a quiet cafe the next afternoon. Ethan, ecstatic at the thought of a huge payday, had no idea he was walking toward a one-way ticket to prison. Immediately after hanging up with Davis, I called Eleanor Vance. Eleanor, my voice was cold. Prepare the file. Contact the NYPD Financial Crimes Unit immediately. Report an active case of corporate extortion and theft of trade. Secrets by Ethan Cole. We have the full embezzlement evidence, and now we have a transaction about to take place. I hung up. I sat in my office watching the clock. Oh, Ethan, I offered you a path to life, and you didn't take it. You chose the path to destruction. Very well. I'll see you off. I didn't go to the cafe. I didn't want to see his face the moment he was arrested. I sat in my office on the 68th floor, watching the city lights come on. At exactly 6 p.m., Alex called me from a secure line. He was in a police surveillance van nearby. Madam Chairman, his voice was a clear whisper. Ethan has arrived. He's wearing a mask and a baseball cap, looking very paranoid. And Titan? I asked. Chairman Davis's man is inside. The briefcase of fake cash is on the table. Everything is ready. I could picture it. Ethan's eyes glued to the briefcase, his hand trembling as he produced the USB drive. Greed had blinded him. They're making the exchange, Alex whispered. He's checking the money. He's taken the briefcase. The police are moving in, Madam Chairman. I heard faint shouts and the crash of furniture over the phone. They have him. It's a clean bust. He's resisting, but they've got him under control. They're cuffing him. Now, I let out a long breath and hung up. It was over. The rest was up to the law. An hour later, Alex returned. They caught him red-handed, Madam Chairman. The USB had all the files. The briefcase was the evidence. Mr. Cole was taken into custody immediately. How did he react? He panicked. Screamed your name, said you framed him. But when Eleanor and our legal team arrived with our full audit report, he completely fell apart. Alex paused. At the station, during questioning, he confessed. He confessed to everything. I nodded. That was predictable. A coward like Ethan would never take the fall. Alone. He detailed the entire embezzlement scheme. And, Alex hesitated, he implicated his mother, Sharon. He claimed she was the mastermind, that she pushed him to do it because Isabella is rich, but she's so cheap, she wouldn't give us a dime, so we had to get it ourselves. He said Sharon was the one who found the relative to set up the companies. He was just following her plan. I closed my eyes. What a perfect family. Son blames mother, mother pushes son, aunt pushes niece. A nest of vipers, devouring each other. The police have issued a warrant for Sharon's arrest, Alex continued, on charges of being an accomplice to organized embezzlement. Where is she? In her hometown, in a dilapidated rental. After the video of Chloe went public, she was ostracized by the community. Just then, Alex's phone vibrated. He quickly answered, Yes, I understand. He hung up and turned to me, his face a complex mixture of emotions. Madam Chairman, news from the police team in Sharon's town. What now? When they arrived to serve the warrant, she screamed and cursed, saying we were framing her. But when they showed her Ethan's signed confession, implicating her as the mastermind, she collapsed. Collapsed? Yes. She suffered a massive stroke, right there on the spot. An ambulance took her away, but her condition is critical. The doctors say she will likely be paralyzed on one side. I was silent. I had imagined Ethan in prison. I had imagined Sharon facing justice. I never imagined it would end like this. Sharon, who had spent her life scheming for her son's fortune, was ultimately crippled by the betrayal of that very son. Karma, it seems, spares no one. Months later, the day of Ethan's public trial arrived. I didn't go. The press was swarming the courthouse, hoping to see the betrayed billionaire chairman confront her ex-husband, but I had no desire to see his face again. My feelings, for him, love and hate alike, were dead. My presence would only feed the media circus. Eleanor Vance and our legal team represented me and the company as the victims. I had Alex set up a secure audio feed to my office. I didn't want to see. I only needed to hear the final verdict. I heard Ethan's voice. He sounded broken. Eleanor later told me he looked like a ghost, having lost 50 pounds, his hair streaked with gray. He didn't scream or rage. He simply confessed. When it was his turn to give a final statement, he cried. He begged for leniency. He blamed his mother, his secretary, the pressure. To make money, he blamed everyone but himself. The judge was unmoved. And then, I heard the final, steel-edged words from the word Sinaworko, bench. The court hereby sentences the defendant, Ethan Cole, to 18 years in a federal prison. 18 years. I closed my eyes and leaned back. A third of a lifetime. He would enter prison a middle-aged man and leave an old one. I felt no joy, no satisfaction, only a heavy, hollow emptiness. The price of greed was devastating. And Sharon? I asked Alex. She was found guilty as an accomplice, he reported. But given her health condition, she is indeed partially paralyzed and requires constant care. The court showed leniency. She was sentenced to 3 years, suspended. She'll live under house arrest, paralyzed, alone, with no son and no money. A prisoner in her own broken body. Her fate was, in its own way, a life sentence. That evening, I returned to the condo for the last time. It was still a mess. I didn't clean it myself. I hired a professional junk removal service. This couch, out. The broken TV, out. His entire wardrobe, all of it, out. They carried away the bed we had shared. They carried away the suit he had worn on his promotion night. They carried away the smiling photos from our wedding. I kept nothing. When the apartment was just 4 empty walls, I called a real estate agent. Sell it, fast. Below market value is fine. I just want it gone. I left without a backward glance and moved into my penthouse apartment at the top of Thorn Tower. This had always been my secret workspace. Now, it was my home. I walked into the bathroom and looked in the mirror. My long hair, which Ethan had said was so fitting for a gentle wife, had been a part of my costume. I picked up a pair of scissors. Snip. The long locks, holding 3 years of lies and pretense, fell to the cold, marble floor. My hair was now short, stylish, and sharp. It was me, Isabella, Thorn. My neck felt lighter. So did my heart. 6 months passed. Thorn Industries was thriving. The Thorn Verde project was a massive success, attracting global partners. Today was the official signing ceremony with a leading green technology firm. I stood on the stage, confident and in command. As I signed the multi-billion-dollar contract, I didn't see the numbers. I saw Liam's old, faded sketch. I saw his smile. After the signing, I took the podium. The camera flashes were blinding. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice clear and strong. "This contract is not just about profit. It's about responsibility. It's about a commitment to a better future." Years ago, my co-founder, my friend, and my late fiancé, Liam, had a dream. He taught me that business without integrity is destined to fail. For a time, due to personal events, I lost sight of that dream. I looked out at the crowd, my head held high. Today, we sign this not just for Thorn Industries. We sign this to make his dream a reality. The applause was thunderous. They were clapping not just for a deal, but for a deal. Story of resilience, of love, and of a soul reclaimed. We did it, Liam, I thought. We did it. That night, I declined all party invitations and returned to my penthouse. I poured a glass of wine and stood by the window, at peace for the first time in Archie years. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Chairman Thorn, my name is Julian Croft, CEO of Vanguard Capital." I knew the name. A titan of the investment world. Young, brilliant, and notoriously single. "I was very impressed by your speech today. Your vision of a decent business is truly inspiring. I was wondering if I might have the honor of taking you to dinner sometime soon to discuss potential collaborations and for a chance to speak with a truly remarkable woman. A year ago, I would have deleted it in a panic. 6 months ago, I would have been suspicious. But tonight, I just smiled. I had walked through fire and come about stronger. I knew my own worth. Whether this was business or something more, I was no longer afraid. I set the phone down. The night sky over New York was beautiful, and for the first time, I was truly free to enjoy the view. I didn't reply that night. I slept, for the first time in years, a deep and dreamless sleep. The next morning, I woke with the dawn. I brewed a pot of jasmine tea, the kind my father sends me from his garden. I stepped onto the Woes balcony and watched the city awaken. Ethan, Sharon, Chloe, they were ghosts from a nightmare I had survived. Ethan was paying for his crimes. Sharon was living her own lonely, crippled sentence. Chloe was lost to a world of her own making. They had all reaped what they had sown. I no longer felt hatred, only a distant pity. My ordeal had taught me a painful but valuable lesson. Happiness doesn't come from a man. It comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and having the courage to live that truth. I smiled, watching the sun paint the sky in hues of pink and gold. It was glorious. I picked up my phone and looked at Julian Croft's message. I was no longer afraid of love, nor did I need it to feel complete. If it came, I would welcome it. If not, my life was already brilliant. I slowly typed my reply. "Thank you, Mr. Croft. I would look forward to that." I hit send. I didn't know what the future held. A new business partnership? A new friendship? Maybe something more. but I knew one thing for certain. My dawn was just beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, money is a double-edged sword. Wealth can blind reason, and greed can destroy a person. But the greatest lesson here is the value of independence and the power of letting go. When you control your own finances, you control your own destiny. And sometimes, the greatest forgiveness isn't for those who hurt you, but for your own past naivety. Only by releasing the resentments of the past can we find true peace and open our hearts to a new beginning. If this story resonated with you, please consider hitting that subscribe button, turning on notifications, and sharing this video. Thank you all for listening. I'll see you in the next story.